I
But
guess, yeah, this kind of transitions into like another question I had about like what do you think students' biggest mistakes are, and just general advice for students now, since we're kind of hopping on the topic of like
mhm,
student expectations.
mhm. Uh, I think the honestly, like I feel because I've been mentoring for a number of years now, so I feel like I've seen like a wide range of types of students that come in and out
Yeah.
of the school and going through mentorship. And honestly, I think like the biggest kind of like factor is probably like the initial kind of like mindset going into the education,
Yep.
where like if they don't have that mindset of just like perseverance, nothing else really matters. Because if you can't really like persevere through like a problem, whether it be like a creative problem or a technical problem, or just you internally battling with your own mind and
Mm,
your own negative thoughts, if you can't persevere and like push through that, it can be very easy to get discouraged, right?
for sure.
And so I think it kind of like starts with that mentality of having that kind of perseverance, or that will, that strong will to
Yep.
push through anything. Is to me is kind of like the start,
Mm,
because I've seen like students that are very creative or students that are very technical, but when it comes to a problem, like they'll kind of just like freeze.
yeah.
And it shouldn't be up to me as like the mentor to just like force them out of it.
Yep.
It's like what I try to do is I try to like understand like where the thoughts are coming from,
Mm,
and see if we can like step back for a second to kind of put it into perspective, to then kind of talk through what it might take for them to step out of it themselves, to
yeah.
get out of that kind of
So
that mental state, you
you're
know?
not there just as their personal motivator, essentially.
Yeah. Because I think like to me, like I take like my mentorship quite serious, because
Yeah.
I don't see it as like, hey, like you're gonna work with me and you're gonna press these buttons and then this is the result that you're gonna get. Like I
Yeah.
don't really see it as that. I see it as like a kind of like, it's like career coaching, really.
For sure.
It's like it's not just about like how do we get through this creative problem or this technical problem. It's like, how do we do that, but how do we harness that knowledge and how do we apply it to everything else going forward?
Yep.
you know Whether it be something that's like, um their personality or their mental state, or just like how to actually do the work. I think it's like the whole package is what I see the mentorship as. And that's why I emphasize the whole like, strong will, perseverance type thing, because I
Yep.
think that that's one of the biggest mistakes, is like not being like kind of like mentally prepared for what you're about to get into.
For sure.
Because I think a lot of students go into it thinking like, oh, I'm going to do something creative, I'm going to do something artistic, quote unquote.
Yep.
And then when they realize that it's not that, it's like they're like, whoa, what is this? I don't want to do this. Then it's just like,
Yeah.
well,
Like we're not
you
just
know,
having fun, right? We're learning to create a product, essentially, for
exactly,
a job.
exactly. This is the job, right? And the computers is like your medium, right? But you're just a digital contractor, right?
Yeah.
That's what it is, right? When it all boils down to it, it's still like a client contractor service relation. you
Yeah.
know it's just we're just using CG, right?
Yeah. For sure.
That's how I see it. I don't see it as like I'm becoming an artist. Like
For
I
sure.
never thought it. I never see it as that. Yeah.
I personally don't really consider myself an artist, more a technician, I guess,
Hmm.
is the way I
Hmm.
kind of view myself. Because
Hmm.
I don't feel
Because
like I'm creating art. I'm just creating the product we're being essentially hired to create for a client, right?
yeah. Because you could have an artistic eye in some scenarios where it's very useful, but when it comes to creating someone else's product, it can be very strict,
For
right?
sure.
So there are times where the interpretation can be aided with your creativity, for sure.
Yeah.
But there are some times where it's like it's just solely just like a technical way of approaching something, or maybe even a literal way of approaching something, because that's just what the client wants.
Yeah.
And I've seen people all the time where they'll get like offended by notes,
Yeah.
something that's creative, and the artist just doesn't agree with it. And I was
Yeah.
like, that's okay if you don't agree with it, but that's just, it's their product, it's their money. So it's like, how do we help them realize their vision. That's our job. It's
Yeah.
not how can I be artsy fartsy about this and to have put my stamp on it.
Yeah,
You know
for
what
sure.
I mean? I don't see it as that. Yeah.
So do you feel like that is one of the biggest, I guess, mistakes that juniors, well, not juniors, but students have when first getting into CG is that they assume they have the wrong mindset and they assume they will be an artist
Hmm.
instead of looking at it as being a job, essentially.
Yeah. That's kind of how I see it. Like I use the analogy a lot of like I'm hiring a painter to paint my house.
Yeah.
You know, and I have a house. I need a painter, someone that understands how to paint, and then paint my house. This is the color that I want. Paint it. But then if the painter that was painting my house is like, okay, well, let me spin this a bit. Let's not use red. I know that you want red, but I was thinking that yellow would work better or something like that. And it's just like if I'm the client and I'm paying you, it's like I'm telling you I want red, then I want red.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like I'm not asking you for that creative kind of spin on it. I'm literally telling you that.
Yeah.
Or
for sure.
if I needed a painter and then I was saying like I don't know what to paint my house. Give me some options.
Yeah.
The painter as the the hired personnel would give suggestions based on their expertise.
For sure.
That's where maybe the creativity could come in.
Yeah.
But not the majority of the time it's not like that. It's
Yeah.
the majority of the time is that the client wants something, they know what they want. They just need the person, the professional to execute it.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess, mindset, I guess, is probably one of the biggest mistakes students have when first coming into this. Do you feel, I guess this might be a pretty bold thing to say, but do you think this industry is not for everyone?
Oh no, I say that specifically
Yeah.
in the mentorships before we even start. I say this. I always say like I personally think that like it takes like a certain kind of mindset to really thrive in this industry.
For sure.
One, because it's very competitive, right?
Yeah.
So getting past that is very important, and two, it speaks upon that whole idea that we're not super artistic, right?
Yeah.
And because I've had many friends that like when I was a junior where they just couldn't handle notes,
Yeah.
and literally after their first show, their first studio, their first movie, they quit the industry.
Yeah.
And it just like, I don't know, it got personal or something like that. It's just like they just weren't about it, you know? Or like those people that come into the industry where, they're always like grumpy and jaded and, they hate all the clients and feedback and stuff, and they don't work well with others in a team environment.
Yep.
It's just like, well, that it's just not healthy, right? So it's like, why, it's not good for you, like
sure.
it's just not the industry for you, So
For sure.
I definitely think it takes a certain kind of personality to really.
And there's nothing wrong with that as well. Like if the industry is not for you, there's totally other jobs for sure.
Mm-hmm. And it's probably, it's very important that people going into the industry also understand this like upfront.
Yeah.
Because it's not.
It's a very glamorous looking industry.
Yeah. Exactly. Especially from our department too, right?
Yeah.
Our department is arguably, one of the most flashy, which is why
it's oversaturated for sure.
Yeah, exactly. But it's not like you don't think of like someone working in Match Move or something like that, or layout,
or a lighter or something, right?
Yeah. It's very.
I think assets is very tangible. Like it's something you can see essentially.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah, this kind of leads into. Oh, do you have any other big mistakes students make?
There's a lot of mistakes there, to be honest. Like I think.
Yeah. What are the biggest ones?
I think for myself and like what I've seen personally, like when it comes to like my mentorships, can be like the concept choice. Like of course because we're making assets, like the concept choice is the big one.
Like overestimating their ability.
Yeah, overestimating their ability or just not understanding what they're able to create.
Yep.
But I think one of the biggest things is biting off more than you can chew.
For sure.
And I think like a lot of the times I always end up suggesting to the students to do less so the quality is higher,
For sure.
rather than doing more and then it just looks half-assed,
Yeah.
right? Because in the end, when I review like demo reels and whatnot, I'm not really thinking initially how much time it takes to make something.
Yeah.
My first initial thought is always going to be, does it look good? Yes or no? And I'll go from there. Then the next question is asked in my head, So if right off the bat it just doesn't look that great,
Yeah.
then I'm gonna ask like why, right?
Yeah.
But if it looks great, I'm gonna be like, oh, I'd love to see more, or I
For
want
sure.
to see like the breakdown and how they figured it out, you
Yeah.
know. But if
Yeah,
it doesn't look good, it's just like I'm very just like off put right away, right?
For sure. Yeah, I've had students who are like, oh, I want to build an aircraft. I want to build the pilot. I'm going to put it in a hangar. And I'm like, no, sure. We'll just make a very good aircraft. And then if we have time, then maybe we can build the hangar, right?
Yeah. Like you always hear like, this is why I don't like really like schools that are very like filmy schools, but have like VFX curriculums.
Yeah.
Because they'll always like invest a ton more time onto the film aspect. But then everything looks like it's from like a 90s game,
Yeah.
But then they're trying to shoot for the same positions as others,
That's
so like it doesn't make sense. Like it's not like you're not getting hired for your film capabilities or how you make a story or whatnot, but and how you show it with your CG work.
Yeah.
You'll get hired because you're looking for an asset artist position or a rigging position or a lighting position, and you should be displaying like almost exclusively that.
Yeah.
Right. But then when you add in that whole, I'm also making a film, it's like a whole nother, that's like a whole different department,
For sure.
And then, I don't need that.
Yeah, exactly. And then to compete with other specialists, it's just too hard, especially at the start.
Yeah, exactly. For sure. So it's like, why not just cut the fluff, get straight to the point, and then just focus on that.
For sure.
So it's like if you're trying to show off that you can make a cool looking asset that looks realistic, why don't you just pick something that you can focus on and up the quality rather than choose too much? Like I always get like students that are like, oh, I want to have this robot flying through the camera, and then it's going to break through the window, and it's going to have these flapping mechanical wings, and I'm just like, whoa. And then I'll ask like, oh, have you rigged or animated anything before? And they'll be like, no, I've just done a bouncy ball. And I'm like, okay, well, we can't do this then.
For sure.
It's not the demo reel that we should do. So I think like, because it's exciting to choose something ambitious, right?
Yeah.
It should be, because you're imagining, you have this idea and in your head, and you're thinking like, oh, imagine if I made this,
You imagine
so that's what you're
the
imagining.
final result being
you're
so
imagining
amazing.
the final result, whether or not you can make it or not, or whether or not
exactly.
you're able to, right?
Yeah.
Which is why I mean, it's like if you don't have a good self-awareness as to like what you're able to create, then it's going to be hard for you to pick something ambitious. I think like it's better to understand like where you sit in terms of your skill level and work around that just enough that where you can up the quality.
For sure.
So something that you're familiar with, that you've maybe done before, and then enhance that look rather than do something that you've never touched before. You still have to learn at the same time, and also because like for the mentorship, it's like 4 months, right, at Think Tank. So
it's not long to do.
It's like
high quality.
Long.
Yeah,
exactly. Especially if you're learning, because you have to learn it, you have to execute at a high degree, and then you need to show the breakdown, and then that's what you're going to be putting out there. You know, so if anyone could do that in 4 months, then why would they not do that? But it's like there's just so much to do in a short amount of time.
Yeah.
So it's like, why would you make it harder for yourself by choosing something that you've never done before, or something that's way too ambitious, or just like content wise, like quantity is just too much. You know what I mean?
So lack of self-awareness of their own ability is another mistake, essentially.
Yeah. I would say that for sure. For sure. Yeah, it's a big one. Yeah.
What about what's another big mistake?
At least from my perspective at the school, it's choosing a mentor, or choosing like the path of education, like how you're going to acquire this education. Whether it's like, I can't really speak like solely just like at our school, but
it's
important where you get the information from. because I think like there's so much information out there, lots of free information out there. But I think that what works well for think tank is that the mentorship is, you're choosing someone that exclusively works, that is actively working in the industry, right?
Yeah.
And I think that context is very important because you get like hands-on, like first-hand experience as to like what you should do relative to your department that you're trying to seek out, right?
So find someone that actually does the job you want.
Yeah. That
For sure.
why not?
Yeah, exactly.
I think mentorship is very powerful for sure, and I think every school that is teaching CG, I think there should be a mentorship type of aspect to their curriculum, because if you're just teaching from books or from tutorials and like how to make
you can do that for free online.
Yeah, you can do that anywhere, right?
Yeah.
But like the stuff that there's a lot of stuff that like you and I will both teach our students that like you can't search online. The reason being is because the context doesn't exist online. Like what we would provide is the insight given a certain context and how to tackle certain problem, or whether it's creative or technical, based on this context.
For sure.
And I think that's very important, because how you work on your own personal demo reel at home and at school is very different from like how you would work beside me inside a studio, right? So why would you not want to try to seek out that specific information? How would you do this? And then when the student asks me like, oh, like how would you do this at work? I'm never thinking like, okay, this is how you do it. I always start by saying like, what is the context? What is the shot? Like give me some context, and then I'll tell you how. Because if the context changes, if the shot changes, then the way that we approach it is different. Right? Like, so you could say, yeah, go ahead. Yeah.